Welcome to this short Just a Thought webinar about the numbers that sell a PGA professional's value. I hope the information in this webinar is useful to you, that you can use it in conversations with your board, your management, your colleagues and your staff. But most of all, I hope that I'm going to be able to inspire you to lead a change in our industry. Hi, I'm Ian James, founder and CEO of Retail Tribe, a company committed to the development and support of communities. And what is a golf club but a community? I need to acknowledge the role of the PGA of America, Palm Beach, in compiling materials for this webinar. Mike O'Donnell, who is transforming the player development department around the principle that the PGA professional is central to the ability of the industry to drive numbers. And Ted Lothario is the engine behind the section workshops that have been run around North America. Ted facilitated many of those workshops. If you haven't been on a section workshop, please find out when one is running in your area and schedule to get on one. There's great, useful information you'll walk away with that you can implement at your facility to increase customer numbers. Much of the content of this webinar I'm going to share with you now has also been shared in bigger workshops with club manager associations and ownerships around the world, including ownership boards. We've had a fairly common response. One has been a humble, didn't know how little we were making use of our PGA professionals. The other is a much more positive, wow, we didn't realize how simple it was to use our PGA professionals to drive the revenue in our industry. In those workshops, we talk about making the customer, the golfer, central to everything we do at the golf club and central to the way we manage the golf club. Now, of course, the golfer is important to every golf club, but when we sit in operating meetings, what we find is that those operating meetings, the facilities, however prestigious or modest, are dominated by the investment in the facility, maintenance in the facility and the status, the course conditioning, what's been done, what upgrades, what's the budget around that, and the events that are being scheduled and run, and possibly any service breaks. What we don't find is the customer as an entry on the agenda. In fact, what we work very hard to do is to get golf clubs to see the customer as the most important part of every operating meeting agenda. We want them to examine key numbers like the number of avid, regular recreational golfers they have and what's the trend. We want them to know the number of golfers they've got in the introductory phases because they're the future recreational, regular and avid to replace anybody we might lose. And we want the focus on who we might lose. We want to know the list of golfers who've had no engagement in the previous quarter and the list of golfers who've played less than once a month. And we want to know which of those specifically are considered to be at risk. We want to know the golfers, recreational and regular, in coaching. So not just the elite and the newbies, but what's the number of regular and recreational golfers we have in coaching? Because that's key to the health of our community, as I'll show you just now. And of course, we want to know the numbers of golfers we've engaged properly, not across the counter, but we've engaged with. Engagement is the most powerful marketing weapon our industry has, so we need to look at how many golfers we're engaging. We know if we make these numbers the driving force of every operating meeting, that in every revenue category, we'll see growth at a golf facility. So what we're trying to do is change the conversation, turn it on its head. We know that engagement, more than anything else, delivers numbers. So let's examine one simple engagement, coaching. I'd like to acknowledge Lauren Anderson and the proponent group at this stage for their input into this research. It's been invaluable. Thank you very much, Lauren. Thank you very much to everybody in the proponent group. What we discovered from 12 golf clubs and the data from those clubs was that somebody in a coaching program will spend 65% more on food and beverage while they're in that coaching program. But that really shouldn't be a surprise to any of us, because somebody in coaching is paying more visits to the facility for lessons and practice. They're shorter visits to the facility, leaving more time for food and beverage. At a bigger level, something like Junior League, and here's Bob Baldessari having wicked fun with Junior League golfers, we know that those junior golfers need to be delivered to the property by their parents. Parents likely to remain while they practice or play, and hopefully have a family meal at the end. In fact, at Springfield, Josh Tremblay and his manager found that the 37 families participating in Junior League spent $46,000 more. Yes, an additional $46,000 on food and beverage in that year. They also found that they had social memberships built from families who wanted their children on the team, so they became social members at the clubs. And they found social members who became golf club members because they wanted to play golf with their junior now playing the game. Even on one-on-one coaching, the impact is significant. A golfer in a coaching program is likely to play 20% or more golf in the following 12 months. But again, that shouldn't surprise us. Somebody investing in improvement is probably going to play better golf. They're therefore going to receive more of their own personal customer value. That is going to create more rounds. More enjoyment will create more rounds. Imagine, though, if we go to the next stage and we make sure our coach has the student booked in for their next round of golf as they leave every lesson, make sure they're scheduled to play in the next club event, and make sure they're introduced to more golfers so that they'll play more golf. And if you're a manager, I ask you this question: will a golfer who's investing in improvement renew or continue to play next year? Of course they will, and the data tells us they will, 100%. So unless somebody dies or migrates, if somebody's in a coaching program this year, they're with your club next year. And that's important. The losses of golfers at golf clubs runs usually between 8 and 12%. Yes, each year we lose between 8 and 12% of our golfers. We don't notice that figure at golf clubs because our leaky bucket has new golfers coming in the top, and that leaves us balanced out usually. But imagine if we could halve the losses in the next 12 months, what that would do to our industry, what that would do to our golf club. And finally, the research tells us that somebody in a coaching program will spend 79% more on retail in that year, and that surely is another obvious one. If somebody's investing in trying to break 85, then they're going to invest in a new set of fitted irons or a driver with the right loft and shaft. These are all fantastic numbers. They support the principle that the most powerful marketing weapon we have as an industry is the PGA professional engaging with golfers. In fact, if you're a manager listening to this, I'll ask you this question. You have $120,000 extra to spend. If you spent it, which will get the greatest ROI for you? Spending $120,000 upgrading your clubhouse, $120,000 improving course conditioning, or $120,000 on creating more engagement between professionals and golfers, especially, by the way, golfers who you don't see as much, so the recreational and more occasional golfers. You cannot beat that ROI. If you're a PGA professional listening to this webinar, then here is the change I want you to lead. I want you to start to talk about the golfer at the forefront of every conversation you're having. And I'd like you once a month to create an engagement report, one that analyzes the different activities you have for engagement. I don't mean just talking across the counter. I mean from a company play through coaching clinics to fun performance events, and the numbers you managed to reach and engage in the last 12 months. In the previous month. At the end of 12 months, you're going to find that you've reached an awful lot of golfers for your golf club. And even if your facility hasn't asked for this report, please give it to them and start that conversation with your management. And hopefully that leads us to the point where you're in the operating meeting, and the most important part of the operating meeting is you telling us how many golfers you've introduced as membership leads and have been converted into members. How many golfers you think are at risk, and which ones are you now connected with and ensuring renew next year? The number of recreational golfers you've persuaded to play in the next club event as you try to move them to more regular golfers. The list of golfers you've graduated, almost as a celebration from the introductory phase into these are now golfers in the recreational level. And the list of golfers you now have in the introductory phase. If you can do that, then you are leading the change in our industry that turns the conversation on its head. If you'd like to talk about anything here, and I really hope the investment you've made in the time listening to this has been valuable, if there's anything you'd like, whether it's copies of materials, you'd like to disagree with something, make a comment, or look for further clarification or information, please contact me at tf@retailtribe.com. To schedule attendance at a PGA of America section workshop, please contact Ted at the email address shown here. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.